win. Pretty amazing race. So. Go ahead.
Did you watch much of it?
A little bit. Saw the end.
Mitchell Robinson played, I think, 15 straight minutes in the first half. That last game was closing. What's made him kind of difficult throughout the series and for you guys to handle out there?
He's a rebounding machine. He's just physical. He has great hands, and he just goes every single time, and he just has a great presence in there. And so it's almost impossible for one person to block him out, and so it's a team thing, and very difficult.
They played a few minutes in the last game with Towns and Robinson together. What challenges that present when you have to deal with both of them at the same time?
Yeah, I mean the rebounding gets even harder. It's hard to start with, but you get 2 7-foot guys in there, and Towns is a great rebounder too. So yeah, and then you have Towns' spacing, and then Robinson's rebounding, and it creates a lot of challenges.
On that same note, if a team is considering a starting lineup change 2 games into the playoffs, just how much do you deviate from what you're already doing versus just doubling down on what you already do, knowing that they're might change their starting lineup?
I'm not going to talk about strategy, other than just to say that in the playoffs you're constantly adjusting. So, if there's a change you have to adjust to, you have to have a plan. So, we'll know with 30 minutes before the game what's going to happen.
With Pascal, I'm just wondering if there's any way that maybe he surprised you or shown you anything new since when he was in Toronto to now. Is he kind of the same player that you thought he would be, or is it anything different that he's been able to show you?
Yeah, I've always been an enormous fan of his. Just like the way that how versatile he is, both offensively and defensively. He had a lot of big games with them. He had a 30-point game in the finals. One of the games back in 19. So his experience has been very important to us. His presence on the floor and things he can do. Pretty obvious.
Rick, I believe it's the 4th time they've had Pacers and Racers on the same day. You were the coach in 04 when it happened. Do you remember anything about that day and just the energy about it?
Well, I think it may have happened one time when I was an assistant with Larry too. Look, it's a big day. They had a great race out there, and they've got plenty of time to kind of migrate over here. So, we'll expect a great crowd. Certainly doesn't guarantee us anything. We were in this position, was it 2 weeks ago, and got smashed at home in Game 3 against Cleveland. So this situation provides many challenges for us, and so we're going to have to do better than we did then.
Rick, when you are thinking about playing somebody like Tony who hasn't gotten a lot of minutes lately, what do you look at, whether it's practice film, to kind of go, okay, he can fit this role, he can play these minutes if we need him in a game?
Yeah, he played. Well, he's demonstrated throughout his career that he's very capable and very solid, filling in for short minutes when needed. He was a consistent backup for Utah a few years ago when Quinn was coaching out there, and I just remember he just didn't make mistakes. He was a good rebounder. He had great hands, and he always seemed to get a little more done than you expected. And we try to involve all our guys in reps as much as we can. The day in between Game 1 and Game 2, we had an optional thing for low-minute guys, and he came over, and Shepard and all the guys, all our two-ways came over, and Walker and those guys, and they worked, and we did a simulated game kind of thing to try to keep them ready and tuned up in case, So, those guys have taken advantage of those opportunities, and then you just don't know. I mean, you don't know who's going to play. I told the guys in our meeting before our prep session on the court today that, you know, in a playoff series, the rotation stuff can be haywire. Everybody that has a Pacer uniform on has to be ready to go in there and do their job.
Rick, Tom has complimented Tyrese a number of times last year's series, this year's series, as an offense unto himself. It's kind of the phrase that he's used a couple of times. It seems like he gets it done differently than a lot of other lead guards. What about Tyrese's kind of lens on the game makes him special?
Well, you know, he's one of those point guards who's, you know, he's a point guard by nature, you know, a classic point guard by nature, a guy running a team, but he's developed the ability to score, and you know, striking the balance is always a bit of the challenge, you know. So, but he's done a great job of migrating through it. You know, teams do a lot of things to make it hard on him. He's learned a lot about being in the fight when teams are doing things to disrupt him and try to physically intimidate him and do things like that. And our guys, you know, that have his back, you know. So, but look, he's a great player. You know, he's an All NBA guy. You know, New York's got 2 All NBA guys. There's, you know, Siakam was an All-Star. I mean, there's great players in this series. So, and they're all highly impactful.
Rick, you spoke about guys getting ready. Ben has played some excellent defense on Jalen this series. Can you talk a little bit about what's impressed you so far about him in this series?
You talking about Shepard?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always ready, and you know, last year he got a lot of valuable experience, and he gives us another guy that can bring a different dimension. You know, he's a great runner. He always goes hard. You know, from a game plan standpoint, you know, he really works at staying with exactly what we're trying to do, and so. You know, he's earned the opportunities he's gotten. He's had some unusual injury stuff happen this year, but he worked through the toe thing pretty well, and he's maybe not all the way over it, but feeling a lot better than he was, and so that helps.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everyone.